I could call to order the October 6, 2015 meeting of the City Council. Please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Mrs. Fritsch? Here. Mr. Kirkovich?
Here.
And Mr. Grundon and Mr. Shar informed staff that they would not be here this evening.
Alrighty. Let's see. Move on to item 3, correction approval of the minutes.
2 sets.
We got 2 sets. Can we do them together? Any problem with that? That's the budget meeting and the council. We got a motion to accept the September 15th, 2015 council meeting minutes and the September 29th budget work session minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any questions? Call the vote, please.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
Yes, 3-0. Move on to correspondence. Mike, anything good?
No, it was very quiet. Nothing from anywhere. No phone, no email, nothing.
No phone, no email, no nothing? Was the
No,
email
nothing.
working?
I hope it was. I had a bunch of junk mail in there.
Okay. I did have a phone call regarding a fire hydrant, which we are looking into. Evidently, from what I found out, the fire hydrants are fixed in clumps. Like, we don't do them just right after in a notice. We do them like 3 at a time if there's problems in other places in the city. So that might not be done until spring. But the house that called has another fire hydrant close to them from the opposite direction, so they are well protected.
Okay.
They're within distance that is okay. It's just that they were covered by 2 of them, and now they're only covered by 1 like everybody else. So that will get taken care of, but we aren't sure if it'll be the end of this year or the beginning of next year. It'll also depend a little bit about money, and if there's money left in the budget for that. It's pretty expensive to pull those up and fix those. It sounds like a simple thing, but it really isn't a simple thing. So we try to make it as economical as we can when it comes to fixing them.
All right. Anything else?
Otherwise, generally quiet.
Mine too was pretty quiet, so we'll move on to questions and public comment, and seeing absolutely no one in the audience for that, we'll move on to city manager's report. Steve, anything you want to add, talk about, discuss? Complaints, concerns? What do you got?
There's been a lot going on, and I haven't been around very much, but nothing that I want to put on the table right now. Maybe a little bit later.
All right. Moving on, acceptance of committee minutes. We have the Public Works Board minutes for August 11th, 2015, the Parks Board for July 22nd of this year, and the Joint Rock Lake Committee for August 4th. All those minutes will be placed on file. Council business, miscellaneous licenses. Can we get the names read, please?
For tavern operator's license, we have Christina Burnt, Paige Hofferman, and Cassandra Olson.
And we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Second, any discussion, questions?
No. I didn't
Please
see
call the
it.
vote.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
Moving on, discussion decision, Class B liquor license. Can we have that motion read, please?
Motion 15-10-1-1, authorizing the granting of Class B combination beer and liquor license to ATC Concepts LLC, DBA The Grist Bar and Table, 101 and 103 South Main Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin. Be it moved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin as follows. Section 1, that ATC Concepts LLC, DBA The Grist Bar and Table, Agent Thomas Gossman, 101 and 103 South Main Street, has requested a Class B combination beer and liquor license in the City of Lake Mills as set forth in the attached request. Section 2, that the City Council has reviewed the proposed request and recommended approval of said request. Section 3, that the city clerk is authorized to take such actions as necessary to issue said Class B combination beer and liquor license to ATC Concepts LLC, DBA The Grist Bar and Table, Agent Thomas Gossman, 101 and 103 South Main Street. The City Council does hereby approve the granting of a Class B combination beer and liquor license to ATC Concepts LLC, DBA The Grist Bar and Table, Agent Thomas Gossman, 101 and 103 South Main Street, and authorizes the council president to sign the motion.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion of adoption?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
All right, discussion, anything?
Everything I had was in the memo. It's, I don't see anything unusual about it. It's a
Just a
transfer from Carps to the Grist, same location, same general concept. And there is a license available. It's being transferred from one to the other. So from my standpoint, it's a staff recommended approval.
All righty.
Do we know when they plan to open?
Well, originally I heard in the spring, but recently I've heard maybe around Christmas time.
Maybe sooner than the spring. Okay.
So I'm looking at their application, and with sidewalks, would they have to come back in and request that again, even though it's,
They're not applying at this time for the sidewalk cafe
Right.
license. And they are aware that they have to have that, but
Okay.
he'll come back if they choose to move forward with that, is
I
what
thought
he
it was
explained.
actually in there, the Sidewalk Cafe.
it does say it in there in their license request. or their
They,
application, but
he knows that that's separate, that would be if they have the license. I know that they were kind of referring to the previous license application to make sure that they were hitting all the different areas, so I think it was just taken from there, but he is aware that they need a license if they're gonna be out front.
yeah, not that we're,
Premises amendment. Temporary premises amendment.
Temporary? All right.
okay.
They're not going to have many sidewalk tables out in February or January?
No, let's hope not. They have some good heaters if they do.
Makes shoveling the sidewalk a little bit tougher.
Any other questions or discussion?
No, I
And a
don't have
motion?
anything else.
Motion is second. Please call the vote.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
Moving on to item C. Discussion decision on John's disposal fee increase. Motion 15-10-12. Can we have that read, please?
City Council Motion 15-10-1-2, authorizing the city clerk to notify John's Disposal that the price options have been reviewed and the city manager is authorized to sign a contract extension. Be it moved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin as follows. Section 1, that the existing agreement between the City of Lake Mills and John's Waste Disposal Service, Inc., copies of which are attached hereto and made a part hereof, has annual conditions that need to be considered by the City Council. Section 2, that the City Council has reviewed the options regarding John's price increase or contract extension in a letter received on September 14, 2015, and the conditions set in the contract for extension and termination of the contract. Section 3, that the City Council authorizes the city manager to sign a 5-year extension of the contract with the understanding that John's Waste Disposal Service, Inc. will not adjust refuse and recycling fees for 2016, and to take such actions as necessary to implement the contract extension. The City Council does hereby authorize the council president to sign the motion.
Do we have a motion of adoption?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And discussion, and then we do have a member of John's here. Do we got to suspend the rules to let him come up and discuss, or
Not if he's part of the deal.
is part of the deal?
Oh, see, right, is that right, Vicki? Or should we?
Just to be on the safe side, you probably should suspend your rules, because sometimes if you're the applicant or the petitioner, you don't have to, but in this case, it is contract, but He isn't the one
All right.
who's the petitioner.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules to allow him to speak.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All right, please call the vote.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
All right. One, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm Brian Youngich, as President John's Disposal. The offer we have is for the same service that I think your residents have come to expect, and I think as your motion says, we requested a cost of living increase, but we're willing to enter into next year with no increase if the city will extend the contract.
Okay. And anything in particular driving it, or, I mean, is it just economy, or what's?
It's the end of our contract expires at the end of we're entering the last year of the agreement, so.
Any questions, or?
Steve, what's your
Obviously,
recommendation?
there were
Any one of them?
4
or-
conditions that went along with this. They discussed extending it for 5 years, extending it for 4 years. You also have the option of just accepting the 2% and waiting out until next year. Or you can, I think that the 2% exceeds the CPI-U. So you could actually terminate the contract and go out for RFP. That one's pretty unrealistic. We wouldn't have time to do that in the near future. The motion was structured to go for the 5 years, which is what we did the last time. Obviously, we haven't had any problems with the service. The service meets all our needs, has been high quality. We have very little complaints. They provide a high level of service, and their fees are not out of line with other communities. So we feel very comfortable in staying with them and would recommend such if you're so inclined.
Ernie?
And we do save money by doing it because we don't have another increase this coming year.
Yes.
So I know my constituents always want us to save money.
And actually, we did have some questions before. I know it's a bi-weekly pickup for recyclables. Was there something, if someone did want theirs picked up earlier, what can they do about that?
Well,
More often?
right. What probably, if people need more recycle service, then they need to be probably informed that they can put out bagged recycling, or like if they still have an old-fashioned yellow bin or blue bin, they can put out with a bulk pickup and we'll take it then. Or they can contact us directly for other options where they can actually get a second cart. There's a cost to that. It's just over $3 a month. And the city's not involved with that. We bill directly. So there are some solutions for too much recycling. But the other thing I will say about the way that this contract is set up is it's pretty all-inclusive. It includes, if people use the recycling to the fullest and they use a bulk pickup, it pretty much includes everything that they need to get rid of. Which I think the residents enjoy. And then the other thing that a benefit, the way that the contract is structured, is that we give you a set price for each year, and then that price doesn't change. And the way that I know you guys like Bill, I've heard other communities say that that's a positive thing, because a lot of our industry, a lot of them have fees that adjust, like fuel surcharges and fees, although that now would be low because that we are seeing a savings in fuel, but where you don't know exactly where your cost is going to be each month or for the whole year. So we kind of take that, and like now we expect, we use the value of the recycling commodities to pay our bills, which is bottomed out right now, but the price of fuel is way down, so it helps us to just hold our own. And we have come to find that those two things kind of go together. So when the fuel prices go up, we've never charged a fuel surcharge here in Lake Mills because so far, if you look at the history, the value of the bottles and cans and the paper and the cardboard goes up too, and that helps us. So the two things really are helping so that we can give you a set price for each year. So.
I'm assuming that the 2% in the final year of the contract helps offset the fact that at the end of the year, you may have to pull out all your carts and equipment.
Right, it's our last year of the contract is 2016.
If they know that they have a longer contract, then they can go to a lower fee rate because they don't have to worry about that.
Right.
For us, it's a flip. Not only are we paying higher to have them possibly have to pull out, but then we have to pay higher for the new guy to come in. because he's got to do exactly the same thing. He's got to bring in all new carts, get everything all set up. So he has that initial mobilization cost. So generally, it's beneficial to stay with a long-term contract. Once in a while, there are benefits to contracting out, but I think if you go out and do the analysis, there aren't, we're not out of line in our prices.
All right, fair enough.
I've had a couple questions from constituents over the year. What numbers of recyclables are they allowed to put in the recycle bin? I know 1 and 2.
That's a good question. Residents don't have to worry about the number. We take them all, so they don't have to look at it. Any bottle or jar, plastic jug. In fact, we've added, this is on our website, we've added like rigid, like 5-gallon buckets we can recycle, and bigger pieces of plastic, like laundry baskets, and that's called, it's a new grade called rigid plastic now. So they don't have to worry about the number. The only things that we would not want is like the film, which is like a bag, the plastic bags. Those can be recycled. Like some of the big box stores have places to take those, but we can't. For us, when they're in there, they go with the paper, and we have a lot of automated machinery that separates it, and they wrap around everything, and they're a nightmare for us.
Don't put
Yeah, the grocery
Plastic
bags, the
bags,
plastic
yeah.
grocery bags, or any saran wrap or and some of the bubble wrap things, is out. But any type of container, jug, bucket, like a bucket, the metal handle would have to be off. It has to be just clear plastic for it to be recycled.
Oh, you take it off and
Yeah, the resident really needs to have it, they pull the handle off, and then they can put it right in the recycle bin, recycle cart.
handle goes in the trash.
That would go in the trash, probably.
All right,
Thanks for explaining.
All right.
any other questions? Thanks for your time.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you very much.
And we got a motion, a second. Can you call the vote, please?
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
And moving on to Resolution 1535, Mutual Aid Box Alarm. Get that read, please?
Resolution 15-35, Addendum B to Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Agreement, whereas the City of Lake Mills provides fire and/or emergency medical services under contract with Lake Mills EMS Incorporated in accordance with Chapters 146 and 213 of the Wisconsin statutes, and whereas whenever an emergency in the City of Lake Mills takes place, or another community requests the City of Lake Mills to provide mutual aid in such an event, Lake Mills EMS Inc. could act swiftly to mitigate the incident, and whereas the City of Lake Mills has reviewed the agreement, which is entitled the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Agreement, and has determined that it would be in the best interest of the City of Lake Mills to allow Lake Mills EMS under contract with the City of Lake Mills to participate in the agreement for the provision of emergency medical services. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, 1, that the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Agreement submitted for consideration and approval is hereby approved. 2, that pursuant to the contract for emergency medical services between Lake Mills EMS, Inc. and the City of Lake Mills EMS, Inc. may participate in the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Agreement in accordance with its terms. 3, that the Lake Mills EMS, Inc. shall keep on file with the city clerk current proof of insurance and other certifications required in the execution of this contract. 4, that the city manager and the city clerk shall be and are duly authorized to sign the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Agreement in the form presented and submit it to the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Executive Board. 5, that each of the fire and/or emergency medical service organizations within the City of Lake Mills be furnished with a copy of the signed agreement and of this resolution.
All right, thanks. Do we have a motion of adoption
So moved.
in a second?
Second.
Thanks. And discussion, anything? Housekeeping?
We moved into the Mavis alarm system in 2007 for the fire department. And we've been functioning under that. We recently had a contract change, which is part of this motion, and then Lake Mills EMS wants to participate.
Okay,
In order for them to be able to participate, you have to approve a motion that authorizes them to participate. And they provided us with a copy of that. It's something that Vicky has and it will need to be signed. But this allows both the upgrade in the Mavis agreement with the fire department and allows the EMS to participate.
All right. Any other questions, discussion?
Nothing.
Nothing? Call the vote, please.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
Moving on, resolution 1536, authorizing 911 joint powers agreement. Can we have that read, please?
Resolution 15-36, Joint Powers Agreement, County 911 Emergency System. Whereas Jefferson County and municipalities located within the boundaries of Jefferson County have implemented an emergency 911 system for the purposes of providing emergency services to residents and visitors of these municipalities, including firefighting, law enforcement, ambulance, medical, and other emergency services. And whereas Section 256.35, Sub 9, Sub A, Sub B, with stats Joint Powers Agreement requires that in implementing a 911 system, as has been done in Jefferson County, municipalities shall annually enter into a Joint Powers Agreement, in which agreement shall be applicable on a daily basis, and which shall provide that if an emergency service vehicle is dispatched in response to requests through the Jefferson County 911 system, such vehicle shall render its service to the persons needing the services, regardless of whether the vehicle is operating outside the vehicle's normal jurisdictional boundaries. Therefore, in consideration of the mutual promises, agreements, and conditions contained herein, it is hereby jointly agreed between Jefferson County and the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin as follows. 1, effective as of January 1, 2016, this agreement shall thereafter be applicable on a daily basis for 1 year. 2, that if an emergency service vehicle operated by the municipality or operated by an agency with which the municipality contracts for that particular emergency service is dispatched in response to a request through the Jefferson County Emergency 911 system, such vehicle, whether owned and operated by the municipality or by the agency, shall render its services to the person needing the services, regardless of whether the vehicle is operating outside the vehicle's normal jurisdictional or as defined by contract boundaries. 3, that a copy of this agreement shall be filed with the State Department of Justice as required by Section 256.35, Sub 9, Sub C, with stats.
All right, thank you. And we have a motion of adoption.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. And then discussion. This too,
I'm trying to think. Every year since I've been here and
Housekeeping,
before
right?
we pass this resolution, it's required annually as part of the state statutes. Any agency that's taking advantage of the joint 911 system and the funds related to it has to agree to the requirements of the joint powers. City of Lake Mills joined it a long time ago. We gave up our dispatch. It's now done out of Jefferson County, so we mutually respond in this area if they need us and vice versa. That's basically what this boils down to, is we get to use the joint dispatch and we agree to respond when needed.
I can imagine the mess it would take if you, or what it would make if we decided not to. That'd be a heck of a mess.
Oh, it would be tough. We'd have to put together a 911 system of our own here, which would cost quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Probably in the $1 million category, and then you'd have staff. You'd have to add additional 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year staff.
Training.
it's hard enough to find staff for, everything else. so.
But citizens need to be aware that when they dial 911, they aren't going to get somebody in our office
In
right
the
here.
Lake Mills, no.
They
No,
will.
they've always gotten Jefferson County, who then has all the equipment to dispatch both police and fire.
And,
Um,
and if we have some, if we have a police officer, well, we have a police officer, but if the police officer who's on duty is tied up with something else, then they will send a different to cover it.
Yes, that's generally a lot of times what we see is that they'll have a mutual response where you'll get both a city police officer and a county sheriff showing up. A lot of times when the towns aren't covered and there's something going on, I think a lot about on the north side of the interstate, our officers will show up, both of them, and handle issues out there without any assistance, so. But those are the kinds of things that happen. Sometimes we show up and support the town of Lake Mills police. Sometimes it's other types of emergencies. The fire department shows up and assists on certain types of events. So it's pretty consistent to just make sure that we get as much coverage for emergency response as possible.
Do our police officers generally go to the EMS calls until the EMS gets there? Or doesn't that happen? I know it's had in the past.
No, every EMS call that I know of has a police officer responding unless we're absolutely
Tied up with some
unable to
other major.
respond. And normally they're there until the ambulance leaves.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Any other questions, discussion? All right, motion second. Can we call the vote, please?
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
Ooh, fun stuff now. To first reading. General budget, first reading. Want to read the whole thing, or what?
Definitely,
First one?
every
Yep.
word.
Yep.
We put our audience to sleep real fast.
So,
Before she reads it, I want to mention that in the 2015 estimate column, there was an error that I had caught in the 2015 budget column, but that change didn't get carried over to the next column. So those two columns are supposed to be the same, and Ms. Deal read it that way.
If I can I read the total revenues, or did you want me to read every line word for word? Do you want me just to read the
The key items
totals?
are in the paragraphs. I wouldn't even read those.
Don't even read the numbers, just read the
Because
sections?
down at the bottom here it gives you what the levies are in section 2. So I wouldn't go through and read all those.
you're gonna read the.
Just read the sections?
Section 1,
And,
the
and
bottom line numbers, totals, and then go to section 2.
Yeah.
and all of these figures are on, they can get it off the website for the city, look it up and look at it very,
These
Magnifying.
ordinances are on there. The whole budget is on.
everything is
Everything is on there.
the
If you
website.
have any detail you're looking for, you can find it on our website.
But if they do have questions, they're welcome to call you and ask, right? Or who do you want them to call?
Or they call me.
Okay.
If it's a budget question, they call me.
Me?
Have them call you?
No.
Oh, all right.
I'll just tell them to call you. Yeah, but just to make it clear that if there's people with questions, we're here to answer your questions. And you can call me, but I would tell you to call Steve.
And I'll pass it on to the right place.
Yes, I will pass it on to the right place. Thank you.
Most of the time, people stop listening to me after I start explaining the details.
I'm sorry, what?
So maybe it's better they call Betsy. You get it,
Or
you start
Betsy.
talking about all the little details that incorporate into how each one of the items starts, and they start to glaze over, and
Well, at least you notice it. That's a good thing. That's the first step to recovery, so.
Oh, and we're happy
Yes.
if we have citizens who are interested. That's,
Absolutely.
I mean, don't ever be afraid to ask a question. That's what we're here for, so.
Okay, we're ready.
Ordinance 1154, 2016 General Government Budget and Tax Levy Ordinance. An ordinance appropriating the necessary funds for the operations of the general government and debt service funds of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin for the year 2016. The City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin does ordain as follows. Section 1, there is hereby appropriated out of the receipts of the City of Lake Mills for the year 2016, including monies received from the general property tax levy to the various purposes specified in the budget presented herewith for the purposes therein stated, the following amounts. Summary of adopted general government budget for 2016. Total revenues, 2015 budget, $4,719,200. 2015 estimate, $4,719,200. 2016 proposed, $4,808,000. Total expenditures, 2015 budget, $4,719,200. 2015 estimate, $4,719,200. 2016 proposed, $4,808,000. 2016 debt service, total expenses, 2015 budget, $1,086,000. 2015 estimate, $1,086,000. 2016 proposed, $1,201,700. Total revenues, 2015 budget, $1,086,000. 2015 estimate, $1,086,000. 2016 proposed, $1,201,700. Grand total, 2015 budget, $3,377,000. 2015 estimate, $3,377,000. 2016 proposed, $3,597,800. Section 2, there's hereby levied a tax of $2,396,100 for all purposes and $1,201,700 for debt service on all taxable property within the city of Lake Mills as returned by the assessor in the year 2015 for the uses and purposes set forth in said budget. Section 3, the city treasurer is hereby authorized and directed to spread this tax on the current tax roll of the city of Lake Mills. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect and be in force from and after its passage and publication.
All right, thank you. Any discussion, questions you want to?
I think in order to, it's such a big thing that if you have questions as a public, ask us, because, just talking about it isn't going to do much of anybody any good without all the numbers in front of you and stuff like that. But we did have a work session, it was open to the public, and it's a pretty austere budget. But we're not cutting the kitchen sink out.
Right.
So,
No, I would take a minute and say it is a pretty good budget, and thank staff for just hours and all the department heads for the time they put in to it. And if there's no more questions, we'll just pass that to the second reading.
mhm.
And we move on to ordinance, let's see what's the next one here. Capital budget, first reading. Ordinance 1155-2016. Can you have that read, please?
Ordinance 1155, 2016 capital budget, an ordinance appropriating the necessary funds for the operation of the capital budget of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin for the year 2016. The City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin does ordain as follows. Section 1, there is hereby appropriated out of the receipts of the City of Lake Mills for the year 2016, including monies received from the general property tax levy to the various purposes specified in the capital budget presented herewith for the purposes therein stated, the following amounts. 2016 capital budget, total revenues, 2015 budget, $3,839,100, 2015 estimate, $3,839,100, 2016 proposed, $1,771,000. Total expenditures, 2015 budget, $3,839,100, 2015 estimate, $3,839,100. 2016 proposed, $1,771,000. Section 2, there is hereby levied a tax of $118,500 for capital purposes on all taxable property within the City of Lake Mills as returned by the assessor in the year 2015 for the uses and purposes set forth in said budget. Section 3, the city treasurer is hereby authorized and directed to spread this tax on the current tax roll of the City of Lake Mills. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect and be in force from and after its passage and publication.
Discussion, or questions? Anything? Mike, anything?
Nope.
All right, with that, we'll move on to recommendations for future agendas. Oh, no, we'll pass that to the second reading. And future agendas, recommendations, anything?
We already have some things ready to go on that agenda from earlier recommendations. I'm trying to jog my memory here.
We have the WISDOT public meeting.
Okay.
They are actually going to come in Tuesday night before their meeting and discuss what they're going to go over with you.
Oh, that's at what time?
That's during the council meeting.
Oh,
The
But there's a-
October 20th, they will be in at 7 o'clock to discuss what they're going to talk about at the 5 o'clock meeting on the 21st.
Oh, okay.
We'll also have are we going to have the WPPI contract on? That'll slide to the next meeting. So that's it right now.
I had a request a while back for a sponsor in case anybody wanted to sponsor an increase in the 2-year license fee for tavern operators. If you recall, I had sent out a memo about that. And in addition, we've got another liquor license related request to take a look at, we created our own Class A liquor license quota. These are like for liquor stores, retail establishments. Instead of the statutory quota requirement for Class B, we created an additional one for Class A. In Class B in state statute, if a property that already has a Class B license were to annex to the city, the statute set up that the license comes with that property and it doesn't affect your existing quota. It's like an add-on to your quota. The request is if we were to be in a situation of a Class A liquor license annexing to the city, could we have an ordinance that has language that mirrors the state statute, but in this case it would be for our Class A liquor license quotas, which we did ourselves. That's not mandated by the state. So that's another request that we're looking for future possible agendas for, in case anybody wants to sponsor one or both of those liquor license related items. Just thought I'd bring it to your attention.
Alrighty. Anything else? Mike? No, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.